Hey folks, welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Sam.
I'm JT.
And this is our bottom 5. That is to say numbers 10 through 6 of our top 10 two-player games or games that we like to play as two players.
Agreed.
Doesn't have to be two-player only games, so we're starting that from the onset. It's kind of like with our solo modes. We had games that were solo only and games that we enjoy playing solo. Same thing here. What did you think? Was this an easy list to make?
It was a hard list to make. It was hard to get cut down. I ended up at like 15 and couldn't make the cut. That was a hard cut.
I did the same thing. I went up to 15, and I think I'm willing to say, depending on the week, any one of those 15 could be on the top 10. All right, my average weight. These are lighter games.
They are? I thought these were better, heavier games.
Really?
Yeah, man. No, I got a couple lighter games in here. There's no doubt.
My average weight was a 1.96, so we dipped below 2 for my...
Pretty close then. Mine was 2.99.
Listen to this guy.
Just
whole
one
number
point
off. My heaviest was a 2.36.
Nuh-uh.
Yes.
My lightest was a 1.97. My heaviest is a 4.07.
4.07?
Yeah. 2
Well, you're okay. His wife likes to play heavy games, too.
That's true.
That's what it
100%.
That's what it is. My lightest game was a 1.46.
Yikes.
Little baby.
Little baby.
I am definitely tracking towards lighter games, which is the norm. He's tracking towards the...
meatier games.
Yes,
I say heavier.
absolutely.
I like meatier. I like thinkier.
You got more meat, you're going to be heavier. That's just the way it is.
That's fair.
All right, well, let's get to it. This is our bottom 5 two-player or games that we like to play two-player games. Let's hit it. Strangely enough, is the lightest game on my list.
Oh, wow. Well, I think with two-player games, it's easier to table a heavier game because you're not trying to teach or maintain it with 4 or 5 people. You know what I mean?
Multiple people.
So,
it's just a one-on-one experience.
Yep.
So I'd also wonder, most of the complexities, I would imagine, from some of those games that are probably going to be on your list, I wonder if their complexity rating is based on a higher player count.
No.
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so, huh?
Nope, not in the slightest.
All right, well, anyway, this one's the lightest one on my list. This is a game that its newest edition has artwork by Vincent Dutrait. And I'm late to the game on this one because I just started playing Jaipur this year, maybe next year, or last year, rather. And I really enjoy it. It's a really fun little resource hand management, trading out resources, trying to build all these different things. I really enjoy this game, and the fact that it has Vincent Dutrait's artwork on it
blows it.
I literally saw it on the shelf, and I was like, "That's new artwork. I must have it."
Nice.
And so I did. I bought it up at Calgary Tabletop Game Day.
You need Vincent Dutrait to come in and put a big mural on that wall for you.
I mean to tell you, I have to. I'll talk about that later. But this one, number 10, it's a great game, and it's not that it's necessarily better than the 5 that didn't make it. Just right now, I'm definitely digging on Jaipur. So that's my number 10, Jaipur.
Jaipur's a very nice game. All right, my number 10 is a 2-player only. I don't have a couple of 2-player onlys on here, I think.
Oh, yeah. How many of those do I have? Well, Jaipur is 2-player only. 4,
I think
5,
I have only
6,
3 that are 2-player only.
7. I have 7 that are 2-player only.
I got 3, I think. But my number 10 is a little 2-player Euro game that's extremely fun. It's called Beer and Bread.
Oh, that's a good one.
In this game, you are collecting resources, hops and wheat and barley and all these different kinds of things. You have a very limited storage, and you're trying to either use that to make beer or you're trying to make bread. You have to balance how much you make of each, because whichever one scores the lowest at the end of the game is going to be your final score.
Yep.
So you have to make a balance of both. On top of that, you have to, once you bake some bread in your bakery, you have to do a special action to get it to clear before you can make more bread. So there's a a very interesting sequencing, and it uses these multi-use cards that are either used for collecting resources or for building up your engine.
Yep.
Or for what's the last thing they do? They do 3 things. I'm pretty sure they do 3 things.
I think. Are you talking
else,
about the scoring cards?
Well, yeah, and they have the scoring on them too, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there's a very interesting thing. The seasons go wet season, dry season, wet season, dry season, and there are more crops in the wet season than there are in the dry season. And in the wet season, you are doing a drafting mechanism where you draft a card and swap your hand with the other player. And in the dry season, you're collecting any cards that you used for resource generation in the first round. And you also have this little card market, but you're having to spend that entire hand. So there's this really cool hand management that goes on. Beer and Bread is a great game. I really like this one.
One of my 15. It was one of my 15. And literally, like we said earlier, it could have easily been on the list. My number 9 is a 2-player game from Bruno Catala. Also has Vincent Dutrait's artwork on it. I did not do this on purpose, I swear. This one is called Raptor.
Oh,
Raptor is a great 2-player game. One player takes on the role of the scientists that are trying to capture and study the little velociraptor babies, and then the other player takes on the role of Mama Velociraptor, trying to protect all of her babies from the evil scientists. And you are basically playing cards that are numbered. They are what your deck does is a little bit different as far as the special abilities on the cards, but the numbers are all the same, 1 to 9. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to play, depends on what you want to do. If you want to use your special ability, you want to play the lower card. Your opponent, if they want to use the number of movements, if you want to move around on the board and manipulate the board, you want to play a higher card. It could be that those are reversed. I get them mixed up all the time. But you're basically, the difference between the two, one of you is going to be able to use the difference in those 2 numbers to do things on the board, and the other person is going to be able to do their special ability, whatever that card might be.
That's cool.
It's a really fun tightrope that you have to walk, because you know what cards your opponent has played, so you can use, that's a little bit of information that you can use. Really fun time. So basically, the scientists are trying to put to sleep. They're not trying to harm the velociraptors. They're trying to put to sleep.
I would only play a velociraptor. I've never
3 of those babies. Or they're trying to fully put to sleep the mama. If they do that, game's over. The mama, however, is just trying to nom.
Yep.
And she needs to kill some scientists, and that's the basic thing. But there's 2 sides of the board that you can play on. There's a number of different setups that you can use. It's a really fun game. Great 2-player game, in my opinion. That's Raptor.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Nom. Only play the Raptors. It needs to be a 1-player game where you're just the Raptors. But anyway, my number 9 is a 2-player trick-taking game. This one's a cooperative version. There are a couple of 2-player trick-taking games now that have a competitive and a cooperative version, and this is my favorite of the 4, I suppose, if you look at it that way. But this is Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard.
Ooh.
I finally got my copy in.
You did?
I did.
Sweet.
So hey, he already has it. But,
yep, I did. I do.
But Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard is the cooperative version of Jekyll versus Hyde.
Yep.
And the other 2 I was talking about was Fox in the Forest. But in this version, you are trying to basically outrun the Scotland Yard police to the end of the track before they get there. There's a couple of things that makes the trick-taking in this very difficult, because they have a stack of cards which you don't know what it is, and you both are playing cards too. So Scotland Yard can easily take tricks. But there are multiple rules that kind of build in this little mini campaign that you have to try to go forward. The trick is that between the 2 of you want to maintain balance at all times. So whoever of you has the lowest number of tricks, that's how far you get to move on this track. And the track has like 10 spots. So if I steal 7 tricks and you get 3 tricks, we only move 3 on the track, which is not good because Scotland Yard's usually right up your tail. So you have to balance as much as possible so you have the same number of tricks. There's also a mechanic there that with 8s you get to move an extra one. And with these little Scotland Yard... If you win them.
Yeah.
And then there's little Scotland Yard figures on the 1s and 2s that if they win, they get to move further too. So it's easy to slough off 2s to them early game. But late game, when you're starting to slough the low numbers off to them, it doesn't work as well. So there's a very cool balancing act to win that race.
Absolutely.
And the components are cool.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little trackboard and little wooden meeples for you and Scotland Yard.
Great artwork.
Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard. That is my number 9.
Good pick. My number 8. JT just talked about it. Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard.
Yeah.
Vincent Dutrait's artwork.
I knew I had one. You have to tell me if you have some more. I knew that is great artwork. See, I said
that is my number 8. Super great artwork, and that's one of the things that pulls it together for me. But the other mechanisms that we've already kind of talked about, I really enjoy the campaign style that it has. Kind of, you have to play through each chapter of this book. And the part of the story that chapter is in determines the different rules that you use during that chapter. It's really fun. Scotland Yard's deck is super surprising at times because it has its own set of cards. But then I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but before the hand starts, both players have to put 2 cards into it.
Yeah, we create that deck. So we create the opponent's deck. So that makes it even worse.
That makes it even harder. You would think that would make it easier because you know what you're putting in there, but you don't. And, oh my goodness, you do know what you're putting in there, but you don't know when that stuff's going to come up. Really a great mechanism for a 2-player trick-taking card game.
Yes.
They really constitute a third player. But the fact that you have very little control over when those cards come up is a really great little tightrope. And the racing mechanism of trying to race to the end, having to hit the end right on and not going over.
If you go over, they get to move forward as well.
Yes. So that's really hard.
Yep.
Really hard. So it's a simple mechanism that's kind of wonky at first, but after you get to know it and understand it, it's super simple.
And there's a couple rules in there with what Trump is, and there's also these potion cards that do special abilities, but that we didn't talk about, but those are all very cool.
Yeah, they are. Super good game, though. That's my number 8. His number 9, Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard.
Yep, I'm Hyde. He can be Jekyll. Anyways, all right. My number 8 is a Garfield game, and really, I think I talked about this in the solo games, but Garfield games have a lot of
That's how we know it's you,
mechanics.
JT.
I know.
You have to have a Garfield game on your list.
So I had to pick between one of 2 on this one, and I picked Paladins of the West Kingdom. So Paladins of the West Kingdom is best at 2, and that's why I put that one in here. Wayfarers of South Tigris is also best at 2. And most reason behind all of that is just the depth of what you're doing on your own. These are very much multiplayer solitaire. Wayfarers has a little bit more connection between you in the middle, but not enough or not much. So it's just as easy, or it's just easier to play this with 2 players. It's just speed-wise, it's a little bit faster that way. I would much rather play this with 2 than with 4 because everything you're doing... So you have your own personal board at the beginning of the round. You're getting a card that has different colored meeples on it, which you're going to have for that round. You might have a couple left over from the last round. You're going to pick a really cool mechanic. You're going to pick a paladin. You're going to pick 3 paladin cards out of your deck. You're going to put one of them on the bottom of your deck so you may never see that paladin again. You're going to put one of those 2 on the top of the deck so you know it's coming up next. And the other one's the one you're going to play for the round. And you have 3 tracks, basically: influence, strength, and something else. I can't remember what the third one is.
Fortitude.
Yeah, maybe. No, it's not fortitude.
It's not fortitude.
But you have these 3 tracks, and you're doing multiple things to the board, either commissioning little monks to go out, or building walls, or fighting off invaders or hiring villagers, but you're doing all this in a worker placement style on your board, which you're upgrading in the same time, and you're just trying to get these points and fulfill these king's orders. So, but best at 2 for sure, just because of the depth of it and the multiplayer Solitude version.
Yep. That's cool.
Amount of it.
This is my least favorite of the Garfield series. Or line.
Well, I understand that. I do.
It's simply because of what you just said. It's very much multiplayer solitaire, and there's just very little interaction.
Yeah,
and that's the only reason I really don't like it. It's fine. It's a fine game as far as all that's concerned, but for me, it's just not.
It might be Melissa's favorite because nobody can mess with her. She just gets to knock things out of the park and make 1,000,000 points. So, but that's my number 8.
That's cool. All right, we really didn't talk about crossovers, but I think we're probably going to have. I would imagine we have at least one more, and we have at least possibly 2 more over both lists. So that's my prediction. 2 or 3.
I was going to say 3 total, but you already said beer and bread's not a thing, not in this list. So I'll have to say 2 now.
Okay. Well, that's that. I'm envisioning that this is going to be a crossover, but it is a brand spanking new game. It's called Sky Team. It's going to be on his list. It's going to be on his list. This is one of the coolest 2-player games that I've had the opportunity to play. I really enjoy the theme, first of all. I'm a huge proponent of theme. I think theme absolutely does matter in games. And this one, the theme just freaking works. Even down to the little cheesy nuance of somebody go get me a coffee.
That's right.
That kind of thing.
We know how pilots work now. They just drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, sure. Well, we hope they're drinking coffee at least.
Yep.
The idea, though, that they also have different airports for all of their different kind of scenarios.
So cool.
It's just an awesome thing to do in a game like this. I love it. I like that Cities did the same thing with Devere, with having different cities be their different public goals that you can score at the end of the game. I love that concept of tying theme to mechanisms and doing it in such a clearly, like, why wouldn't you do it that way?
Right.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I love it. And it's been getting accolades aplenty, so I'm not saying anything new here, but it is Sky Team for my number 7.
Nice. That's a really good pick and might be a crossover.
It is.
I'm going to give you an 85% chance. All right.
No crosswinds.
My number 7 has been climbing on my list since we've had this for quite a while, actually. And I think the first time we played it was not this last cruise, but the cruise previously. But then Melons and I started playing it more and more. I think we even maybe have played it with you guys once. But we took it down to, we've just been playing a ton of this game. I bet you I played it 30 times this year. And that is Decorum. Decorum is such a cool game, and I know maybe I don't look like the kind of person that would like Decorum, but it is such a cool puzzle. In Decorum, you have a house. In fact, we have the moving out thing now, and we've played a couple scenarios for moving out as well. But you have a house. It has 4 rooms in it. Each room has a different paint color, or it doesn't have a different paint color, but each room has a paint color, and possibly it has a curio, a lamp, and a wall hanging in it, and those come in different colors and different styles, like antique or classic or whatever else. And you have 3 rules that you want this house to look like. You know, I need to have no red items on the bottom floor. You have 3 to 5 rules, and then your other person has 3 to 5 rules. So you're trying to make your stuff happen, but it's limited communication. So if they take a red lamp and stick it on the bottom floor, and I'm like, oh, I hate that. You cannot put red. I hate that lamp right now. Yeah. And you can tell them that, and then somehow, some way, they have to figure out, because maybe they wanted the red lamp there because of the type of thing it was. Yeah. They need to figure out how to make theirs work without putting a red lamp down there. And you just go back and forth, and there's a lot of passive aggressive, I hate that, or whatever. I don't care if you paint the room yellow. But this is a blast. Like, I took it down. We played it with my mom, my daughters, my sisters, all kinds of family members.
This is a social deduction game,
it's so
cleverly disguised
extremely clever
as a interior design.
Yeah, as
board
an
game.
interior design board game.
So you kind of get hung up almost on just doing your thing, and you forget that you have to be paying attention to what everybody else wants
The
too.
coolest thing is learning. You're trying to figure out what everybody else needs. And most of the scenarios are 2 players, so that's why I put this as a 2-player game. But there are scenarios that are 3 and 4 player, 3 or 4 player as well. But the majority of the scenarios are 2 player only.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we really love this game.
if your brain clicks with everybody else at the table, it can be very fun.
I've never had it not fun.
If it doesn't, it can be
You just have to
super frustrating.
Force them to do it right. That's all. You just force them.
Yeah, I
It's
get it.
Forceful relationship.
We enjoyed Decorum when we played. We did play a 4-player game of it. It was me and Justin, him and Mel, and it was...
He didn't
It was
like it.
enjoyable. The first
we were
time
smiling and laughing.
you
regardless.
spend half the time just trying to figure out what you have to do in order to get everybody else to understand what you need to do. But at the same time, everybody else is doing the same thing. So there's just that real tension. So the first game is all about trying to find that balance of doing what you need to do and getting everybody else to do what they need to do and not interfere with what you need to do. And
What he just said.
if you like it, you like it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, you can still have fun goofing around at the table and trying to go along and still trying to figure it out. So it is a fun game, don't get me wrong. All right, my number 6, my last one for this half of our top 10 is a game that I have played ad nauseum in a number of different formats. I've played it online on a number of different online platforms. I have played it a lot at conventions. I've played it a lot here, and it is called Super Fantasy Brawl. Now, this is a game that you can play multiplayer, but just
Never.
don't do it.
Never.
Just don't do it. Just listen to us. Don't do it. Just play this game 2-player. That's where you're going to have the most fun with it. I absolutely promise you. It is a 2 or 4-player game. There are no rules for 3 players. If I'm remembering correctly, it's a 2 or 4-player game.
Take a Sharpie and just scratch that 4 out.
Just scratch the 4 out. You will enjoy it much more, and you're welcome. Super Fantasy Brawl, though, is where you are going to take your team of 3 characters, and each of those characters has their own deck of cards. And you're going to take all 3 of those deck of cards and make them into one deck, and that comprises your deck. And so you're going to be drawing cards. You're going to use those cards to be able to move those characters around at certain times. You're trying to basically just score 5 points first. And the way you score points is by, first of all, you can knock out the opponent's characters and score 1 point per character that you knock out. They respawn. It's not like you're eliminating their players. Or you can score some of these different objectives that are on the side of the board that everybody can see. And if you score those, they're usually going to be worth more than just 1 point. But you can do both at the same time. And the first person to score 5 points is a winner. Really, really fun arena battle game. And it has a lot of depth packed into a very simple mechanism structure.
Yeah. You'd have a really hard time, I think, winning by just knocking out 5 people.
Absolutely. You have to do both.
If you're not paying attention to those and actively trying to stop people and working for them yourself, you're
going to
not
fall
going
behind.
to make it. Yeah.
You're going to fall behind.
Such a great game.
Really great balance between just getting in there and pounding faces, or just controlling areas of the board and scoring more points that way. Really great balance. Love it. That's my number 6, Super Fantasy Brawl.
This one legitimately landed 11 or 12 for me. I'm sorry. Great game. Fantastic game. Like you said, next week it could be on this list.
Absolutely.
It's an awesome game. All right, my number 6, the last one on this list, is also our last crossover. Tried and true for sure. Look at my list now.
This is our last crossover?
This is our last crossover, 100% certified.
Certified.
And this is Sky Team.
Sky Team,
Yeah, Sky Team is a great 2-player game. In fact, it's best at 2, because you can only play it with 2.
Only play it at 2.
I'm waiting for the Turbulence expansion. I don't have it yet. I have played this a ton, absolute ton. I've played this with so many people. I think I've played through all but the last couple of scenarios. The really cool thing about it is there's so many different scenarios. There's so many different airports. Some of them are short. You know, you only have a few. You don't have very far to get to them. Some of them are very far away, so you're having to watch your speed and different things. You're leaking fuel. You're trying to train an intern. You're landing on icy roads, icy runway. You're doing all of these different things, so it's not like every single one of them is the same. You're dodging mountains. You're doing all of these cool things.
So cool.
And trying not to crash your plane at the same time. So,
That's important.
yeah. Sky Team is a fantastic game. Like you said, we don't have to tell you that, but it is a fantastic game. So.
Absolutely.
That's my number 6.
Very cool. That is our bottom 5 2-player or games that we feel play best at 2-player.
Yep.
That might even be a redefinition of it, because that's not what I said earlier. We just said games that you can play 2-player.
Sure.
But that's fine too. But if they're on the list, that means we think they play pretty well at 2-player.
Yes, that's for sure.
That is it, though. Thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Go ahead and give us a comment. Let us know what you think here on the Dice Tower. And then, after you're done interfacing with us here, head on over to the Flipside. That's where we usually put up our content. And we've got our top 5 2-player or games that play well with 2-player games over there. And you can give us a like and subscribe here.
Yep.
Do
And
the
then
same
go
thing
see
over
the
there.
good ones.
Go see the best ones. These are good.
These are great.
Those are better.
Yep.
So go check those out. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.
We'll see you later.